Hello, everyone. Today, we're here to talk about something that touches all of our lives' relationships. Not just romantic ones, but friendships, colleagues, even family. Because here's the truth, the quality of the people around you shapes the quality of your life. But what happens when the people around you aren't who they claim to be? What happens when you ignore the signs, let toxicity linger, or worse, let fake people into your inner circle? It's time to open our eyes. The power of awareness is a crucial tool we often overlook in our daily lives, yet it's one of the most significant gifts we can give ourselves. When we're aware, truly aware of the people around us, their actions and their intentions, we begin to see the world not through a lens of assumption, but through clarity. This is especially important when it comes to recognizing bad and fake people who often rely on our ignorance or inattention to thrive. It's easy to fall into a pattern of complacency, assuming everyone around us has our best interests at heart. We want to believe that the people we invest in are genuine, kind-hearted, and trustworthy. But what if that's not the case? What if, instead of being a supportive friend, a trusted colleague, or a loving partner, someone in our life is only showing us the version of themselves that they want us to see? When we aren't paying attention, we miss the subtle cues, the ones that are trying to tell us something isn't right. The first step in protecting ourselves and cultivating authentic connections is to develop the power of awareness. Awareness means understanding that not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. Not every compliment is a genuine one, and not every act of kindness is motivated by love or care. Recognizing bad or fake people is not about being paranoid. It's about being attuned to the energy and behaviors that don't align with truth and integrity. For example, how often do we ignore the small red flags, those little moments that don't feel quite right, but we push them aside because we don't want to be seen as judgmental or negative? Awareness teaches us to trust our gut. One of the greatest tools in recognizing the difference between someone who is authentic and someone who is fake is the ability to observe their consistency over time. A person who is genuine doesn't change their persona based on their audience. They act with integrity, whether they're in public or in private. A fake person, on the other hand, is often inauthentic, shifting their behavior to fit the situation, the group, or the need they're trying to fill. When we're aware, we can see these inconsistencies for what they are: manipulation in its most basic form. But awareness doesn't just involve external observation, it's also about being honest with ourselves. We must be willing to confront the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes we already know that someone isn't good for us, but we choose to ignore the signs because we fear confrontation, judgment, or the repercussions of facing the truth. This is where awareness can be the most challenging. It's not just about recognizing bad or fake people around us. It's about recognizing when we are choosing to tolerate behaviors that don't serve us. It's easy to allow toxic people into our lives when we aren't aware of the damage they cause. We may rationalize their actions, overlook their disrespect, or minimize their manipulation. But when we develop a clear understanding of what authentic relationships look like, built on respect, honesty, and genuine connection, we begin to see the contrast between healthy dynamics and unhealthy ones. The power of awareness gives us the ability to protect our time, energy, and emotional well-being. It allows us to make decisions from a place of clarity, not fear. And when we operate from this awareness, we open the door to real, meaningful connections with the people who truly support and elevate us. It's about making space for people who are worthy of our trust, love, and energy, while closing the door on those who don't respect or value us. Awareness is the key that unlocks this truth and sets us free to live more authentically. Spotting emotional armor is an essential skill in recognizing whether someone is being authentic or hiding behind a facade. Emotional armor is the protective shield people put up to guard themselves from vulnerability, pain, or discomfort. It's often worn by those who are too afraid to expose their true selves or who want to control how they are perceived by others. While this armor may seem like strength on the surface, it's actually a sign of deep insecurity, fear, or past wounds. The challenge for us, then, is to recognize this armor for what it is without letting it deceive us or let us become complicit in its disguise. When we encounter someone wearing emotional armor, we may notice that they consistently deflect or avoid deep emotional connection. They might seem distant or closed off, using humor or arrogance to keep others at a safe distance. At times, they might appear overly confident, almost to the point of arrogance, but this outward display often masks an inner fragility. Instead of showing their true feelings or dealing with conflict directly, they may use sarcasm, deflection, or even anger as a way to shut down vulnerability. They don't want to show weakness, and they don't want to reveal anything that could be used against them. It's as though they've built an invisible wall that keeps everyone out, even if it means disconnecting from meaningful, authentic relationships. Emotional armor can take many forms. Some people might use perfectionism to shield themselves from judgment, presenting a picture of flawlessness that is impossible to maintain. Others might use emotional manipulation, trying to control situations or people to avoid feeling powerless or exposed. Manipulators often play on your emotions to distract from their own vulnerabilities, using guilt, pity, or praise as tools to shift the focus back onto you. By doing so, they maintain control and avoid confronting the rawness of their true feelings. In these situations, their strength is not real. It's a defense mechanism that keeps them from dealing with their fears or uncertainties. Another form of emotional armor is detachment. When someone constantly keeps others at arm's length and avoids truly getting to know people, it's usually a sign that they're protecting themselves from potential hurt. These individuals might seem aloof, uninterested, or emotionally distant, yet beneath that cool exterior is someone who fears the vulnerability of emotional intimacy. They may be afraid of rejection, betrayal, or losing control, so they shut themselves off from deeper connections. While it may seem like they don't care, in reality, they care deeply, but they've learned to hide it as a way of protecting themselves from the pain they believe might come with being open. Another sign of emotional armor is the use of distractions, whether it's excessive busyness, substance use, or an obsession with external validation. These behaviors are often a response to avoid confronting emotional discomfort or vulnerability. When someone is constantly preoccupied with work, social media, or anything that diverts attention from their true emotions, it's a sign that they are trying to avoid looking inward. Rather than facing the difficult emotions of sadness, fear, or grief, they cover them up with activities or distractions that prevent them from fully experiencing their inner world. Recognizing emotional armor is not about judging others. It's about understanding that people's behaviors often stem from deep-rooted fears and wounds. It's also about setting healthy boundaries for yourself and recognizing when someone is not being authentic with you. When we understand that someone is wearing emotional armor, we can make the choice to either engage with them compassionately, offering a safe space for them to lower their guard, or choose to protect our own energy if we see that the person isn't ready or willing to open up. In either case, the most important thing is not to mistake emotional armor for strength or genuine connection, as this can lead to disappointment, disillusionment, and a lack of true intimacy in our relationships. Listening to your gut is one of the most powerful tools you have when it comes to recognizing bad or fake people. We all have an inner sense, a quiet voice, or an instinct as when something doesn't feel right. It might manifest as a feeling of discomfort in your stomach, a sense of unease, or a subtle but persistent thought that something's off. too often, though, we ignore this gut feeling. We dismiss it as paranoia or try to rationalize it away, choosing to trust logic or the opinions of others instead. But when it comes to navigating relationships, whether personal or professional, your intuition is often more accurate than any checklist or external advice. It is your internal compass, honed by experience, guiding you through the noise to the truth. Listening to your gut isn't about being paranoid or overly suspicious of everyone you meet. It's about tuning into the subtle cues your body and mind are giving you. We all encounter moments when we meet someone and something about them just doesn't sit right, even if we can't immediately pinpoint why. Maybe they're charming, but there's something in their eyes that feels distant. Or maybe they say all the right things, but their actions don't match their words. These are the moments when your gut is trying to tell you that something isn't as it seems. Instead of ignoring these feelings in the name of politeness or fear of being wrong, listening to your gut means honoring these instincts as valid sources of information. One of the challenges with trusting our gut is that it often doesn't come with clear, logical evidence. Unlike other signs, like someone telling you a blatant lie or acting in an overtly harmful way, gut feelings are more subtle and intangible. It's easy to dismiss them as nothing more than a hunch or a bad vibe, but in many cases, these intuitive nudges are based on things we may not even consciously notice, small inconsistencies in behavior, tone, or energy. Our brains are constantly processing information, picking up on patterns and cues that we might not be fully aware of, and our gut is simply an extension of that deeper knowledge. When it tells us that something is wrong, it's often because we've picked up on something consciously or unconsciously that doesn't align with what feels authentic or right. But why do we ignore our gut feeling so often? Part of the reason is that we've been conditioned to doubt ourselves, to prioritize external validation, or to fear judgment for acting on something intangible. We may second guess ourselves, thinking that maybe we're being overly sensitive or misinterpreting the situation. But the more we ignore that inner voice, the more we silence our intuition, the less likely we are to trust it in the future. The truth is, we need to stop doubting ourselves and start listening. Our intuition, when honed and trusted, becomes one of the most reliable guides in recognizing who is genuine and who isn't. Another factor is the human tendency to want to give people the benefit of the doubt, especially when we are desperate for connection or approval. We might convince ourselves that the person we're dealing with is an exception, that they will change, or that we're just misunderstanding the situation. We do this because it's uncomfortable to confront the possibility that someone isn't being truthful or authentic. But when we ignore that gut feeling for too long, we risk putting ourselves in situations that are draining, toxic, or damaging in the long run. By actively listening to our gut, we allow ourselves the opportunity to step back and reassess situations without bias or influence from others. This empowers us to make decisions that honor our well-being and integrity. It might mean walking away from a relationship or setting a boundary, but it also means preserving our energy, our sense of self, and our peace of mind. Our gut, more than anything, is a tool for self-protection. It's a reminder that we deserve authenticity in all of our relationships. And when something doesn't feel right, it's okay to listen, step back, and trust that our intuition knows more than we realize. The cost of silence can be far more destructive than we often realize. It may seem easier to stay quiet to avoid confrontation, or to simply turn a blind eye when we sense something is wrong. We tell ourselves it's not worth the trouble, that speaking up will cause conflict, or that maybe things will improve on their own. But over time, silence becomes a heavy price to pay, one that chips away at our self-respect, our relationships, and even our peace of mind. When we remain silent in the face of dishonesty, manipulation, or mistreatment, we unknowingly allow toxic dynamics to grow unchecked. leaving us more vulnerable to harm. At the heart of silence is the avoidance of discomfort. We often stay quiet because we fear the emotional cost of speaking up, whether it's the fear of conflict, rejection, or being judged. This silence may seem harmless in the short term, but the longer we withhold our truth, the greater the emotional toll it takes. Each time we choose not to speak out, we reinforce a pattern of self-doubt and internalized shame. We begin to question our worth and whether our feelings are valid. Over time, this leads to a loss of confidence as we become conditioned to put others' comfort before our own needs and boundaries. Silence also enables bad or fake people to continue their harmful behaviors. Manipulators thrive on the absence of accountability. They know that if they can keep others quiet, whether through guilt, intimidation, or subtle manipulation, they can continue their patterns without being challenged. When we don't speak up, we are, in essence, allowing their toxic actions to go unnoticed and unaddressed. This silence perpetuates a cycle of dishonesty and disrespect that harms everyone involved. By failing to confront issues when they arise, we make it more likely that these toxic people will feel emboldened, thinking their behavior is acceptable. The longer we remain silent, the harder it becomes to break that silence, and the greater the damage becomes. The cost of silence is not only emotional but also relational. When we choose to remain quiet in unhealthy situations, we often distance ourselves from genuine connection and mutual understanding. True relationships, whether with family, friends, or partners, are built on trust, honesty, and communication. When we withhold our feelings or stay silent in the face of hurt, we create a barrier that prevents real intimacy from developing. In the long run, silence erodes the foundation of trust. We may think we are protecting the relationship by avoiding confrontation, but in reality, we are allowing the space for misunderstanding, resentment, and distance to grow. The cost is a relationship that may seem intact on the surface but lacks the depth and connection needed to thrive. There's also the cost of personal peace. When we suppress our feelings, whether due to fear or avoidance, we invite internal conflict. Holding in our truth is a form of self-betrayal. The anxiety that accompanies the choice to stay silent can be overwhelming, leading to stress, frustration, and even feelings of powerlessness. We begin to question our ability to stand up for ourselves, reinforcing the belief that our voice doesn't matter. Over time, this erodes our sense of personal agency, leaving us feeling disconnected from ourselves and our own desires. Our silence becomes a form of self-silencing as we diminish our own worth in the name of maintaining the status quo or avoiding discomfort. The cost of silence is the cost of living inauthentically. By not speaking up when something doesn't feel right, we betray our true selves, our values, and our need for respect. The longer we remain silent, the more we allow unhealthy patterns to persist, and the more we lose touch with our ability to protect ourselves. But the beauty of recognizing this cost is that it also points to the solution, reclaiming our voice. Once we understand the true cost of silence, we empower ourselves to speak up, set boundaries, and demand the respect we deserve. Silence may seem like the easier path, but it is the truth spoken with courage and clarity that leads to real growth, deeper connections, and a life aligned with authenticity. Courageous boundaries are an essential act of self-care and self-respect. They are the invisible lines we draw to protect our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Setting boundaries isn't always easy, especially in a world where we are often conditioned to please others, avoid conflict, or prioritize other people's needs over our own. However, the true power of boundaries lies in their ability to honor our personal needs, values, and limits, allowing us to live authentically and with a sense of peace. It takes courage to establish these lines, particularly when doing so might cause discomfort, disappointment, or even pushback from others. But the strength of courageous boundaries lies in their ability to give us the space to thrive and to preserve our energy for what matters most. When we set courageous boundaries, we are taking responsibility for our emotional well-being. Many of us grew up in environments where we were taught to prioritize others' happiness over our own or to keep the peace at all costs. Over time, this creates a pattern of neglecting our own needs until we reach a breaking point where we feel drained, resentful, and out of balance. Courageous boundaries are the antidote to this. They allow us to communicate what we are willing to accept and what we are not. Rather than sacrificing our well-being, we learn to say no when something doesn't align with our values or priorities. And we say yes to what genuinely nourishes us. Setting boundaries with others is also about taking control of the energy we allow into our lives. It is so easy to fall into the trap of people-pleasing or tolerating toxic behaviors in the name of maintaining harmony. But by doing this, we are allowing others to take up space in our lives that doesn't serve us. This could look like tolerating disrespectful behavior from a colleague, letting a friend take advantage of our time, or staying in a relationship where our emotional needs are unmet. Courageous boundaries help us preserve our energy by ensuring that the people and situations we engage with are ones that align with our truth. It's about choosing the people who treat us with respect, who uplift us, and who contribute to our well-being. The act of setting courageous boundaries isn't just about saying no to others, it's also about saying yes to ourselves. It requires us to acknowledge our own worth, to validate our needs, and to trust that we deserve respect and care. Often we fear that setting boundaries will make us seem selfish or difficult, but the truth is that healthy boundaries are a sign of self-love, not selfishness. When we honor our own needs, we become better equipped to show up for others in a meaningful way. The more we practice setting boundaries, the more we reinforce our own worth and the belief that we deserve to be treated with kindness, fairness, and honesty. Setting courageous boundaries is not always met with understanding or acceptance. People who are used to taking advantage of our kindness or manipulating our time may push back. They may make us feel guilty for prioritizing ourselves, or they may try to make us feel as though our boundaries are unreasonable. This is where courage truly comes into play. It takes courage to stand firm in the face of resistance, to trust that your boundaries are valid, and to let go of the fear of disappointing others. While this process can be uncomfortable, the rewards are immeasurable. When we set and maintain boundaries, we begin to teach others how to treat us. We show them that our time, energy, and emotional well-being are valuable and that we are not willing to compromise on our peace. Setting courageous boundaries also means understanding that it's okay to evolve and adjust them as needed. Boundaries are not rigid walls, they are flexible guidelines that shift as we grow, change, and learn more about ourselves. The boundaries we set in one stage of life may not be the same as those we need later on. Life is dynamic and so are our needs. Courageous boundaries allow us the space to reassess, adjust, and recalibrate as we evolve and as our relationships and circumstances change. Courageous boundaries are a pathway to living a life of authenticity, freedom, and self-respect. They help us preserve our peace, protect our energy, and create the space for healthy, fulfilling relationships. The courage it takes to set and enforce boundaries may challenge us in the short term, but it is the very thing that leads to long-term growth, happiness, and a deeper sense of personal fulfillment. The gift of real connections is one of the most profound treasures we can experience in life. In a world that often feels increasingly superficial, where interactions can sometimes be reduced to quick exchanges on social media or surface-level small talk, the value of genuine relationships can easily be overlooked. Real connections go beyond shared interests or fleeting moments of enjoyment. They are rooted in mutual understanding, vulnerability, respect, and a deep sense of trust. These connections have the power to enrich our lives, nourish our souls, and support us through both the highs and lows of our journey. When we cultivate real connections, we invite people into our lives who see us for who we truly are, beyond the masks we wear or the roles we play. These are the people who listen with intention, who care not just about what we do, but who we are at the core. They create space for us to express ourselves without judgment, and they challenge us to grow in ways that feel empowering rather than limiting. With real connections, we no longer have to hide behind pretenses or try to be something we are not. We can show up authentically, knowing that we are accepted, flaws and all. The gift of real connections is that they provide a sense of belonging. In our deeply interconnected world, it's easy to feel isolated, even in a crowd. We may have hundreds of friends online, but true companionship is rare. Real connections offer the warmth of understanding and a sense of being truly seen. They are the relationships where you don't have to explain yourself every time you speak, because the other person already understands you on a deeper level. These connections are built on shared values, mutual respect, and a recognition of each other's humanity. They are the relationships that transcend time, where distance doesn't diminish the bond and where silence doesn't equate to a lack of care. In these relationships, we find that we are not alone in the world, and that is one of the most powerful gifts we can receive. Another beautiful aspect of real connections is their ability to foster vulnerability and emotional safety. When we open ourselves to others, when we share our struggles, joys, dreams, and fears, we allow others to do the same. This exchange creates a bond that is both freeing and healing. In a society that often promotes independence over interdependence, real connections remind us of the importance of leaning on each other. Vulnerability becomes a bridge that connects us on a deeper level, where empathy flows freely and the weight of the world feels lighter because we don't have to carry it alone. Real connections also nurture personal growth. The people we connect with at a deep level are the ones who help us become the best versions of ourselves. They see our potential before we do. They encourage us to step out of our comfort zones, and they push us to pursue our dreams and passions. They provide us with honest feedback, hold us accountable, and offer support when we falter. These connections challenge us to think critically, to examine our beliefs, and to step into the fullness of who we are meant to be. The value of these connections lies not in their perfection, but in their ability to help us learn, evolve, and navigate life with resilience. But real connections are also a reminder that true relationships take time, effort, and vulnerability. They are not built overnight or maintained through surface-level interactions. They require ongoing commitment, communication, and the willingness to show up even when it's difficult. Building these connections means being open to the complexities of human relationships, the misunderstandings, the disagreements, and the differences in perspectives. It means showing up with compassion, extending grace when things get hard, and being present through both the joyful moments and the challenging ones. Real connections require effort, but the rewards are immeasurable. In a world that can often feel disconnected or fragmented, the gift of real connections is more precious than ever. They are the relationships that anchor us, inspire us, and give us a sense of purpose and belonging. These connections provide the emotional nourishment we need to thrive, the space to grow, and the courage to face the world with authenticity. They remind us that we are all in this together, that our shared humanity is a powerful force for good, and that the greatest gift we can offer each other is the gift of being real, being present, and being truly connected. Choosing bravery over comfort is a decision that can shape the trajectory of our lives in powerful ways. It is about stepping into the unknown, embracing discomfort, and pursuing what truly matters, even when the path is uncertain or challenging. While comfort offers safety, predictability, and the illusion of security, It often comes at the cost of growth, fulfillment, and the deeper satisfaction that comes from living authentically. Bravery, on the other hand, invites us to push beyond the limits we set for ourselves, to challenge our fears, and to trust that we have the strength to navigate the discomfort that comes with change. Comfort often feels like a refuge from the chaos of the world, a place where we can hide from the discomfort of difficult decisions, challenging conversations, or the fear of failure. It's easy to fall into the trap of seeking stability and routine because it feels safe and familiar. But over time, this reliance on comfort can leave us feeling stagnant, disconnected from our true desires, and unable to tap into our full potential. Choosing comfort is often a decision to stay where we are rather than to move toward something greater. It's a decision to avoid the discomfort of growth, to shy away from the discomfort that accompanies new opportunities, new challenges, and new experiences. Choosing bravery, on the other hand, requires courage to step out of the comfort zone and face the unknown. It's about recognizing that growth is rarely easy, and that discomfort is often a sign that we are stretching beyond our limits, discovering new parts of ourselves, and opening ourselves up to new possibilities. It takes bravery to make a decision that feels risky, to take a leap of faith, and to trust that we will be okay, even if things don't turn out the way we expect. Bravery isn't about being fearless, it's about taking action in the face of fear, pushing through the uncertainty, and believing that the reward of growth and authenticity will be worth the discomfort. When we choose bravery over comfort, we are choosing to live a life that aligns with our deepest values and desires. Comfort might keep us in the same routine, but it doesn't lead us to the life we dream of. Bravery, however, can lead to fulfillment even if the journey is uncertain. It's about saying yes to opportunities that scare us even when we don't feel ready. It's about having the courage to speak up, to set boundaries, to pursue our passions, and to stand in our truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Bravery means letting go of the fear of judgment, the fear of failure, and the fear of being misunderstood. It's about choosing to prioritize what's most important over what feels safe in the moment. Choosing bravery also means accepting that failure is a part of the journey. When we step out of our comfort zones, we are opening ourselves up to new experiences, some of which might not go as planned. But failure isn't something to fear, it's a teacher. It shows us what doesn't work, and in doing so, it brings us closer to what will work. Bravery is the willingness to fail, to try again, and to learn along the way. It's the resilience to keep going, even when things don't unfold as expected. Bravery doesn't mean being perfect, it means being willing to try, to stumble, to rise again, and to keep moving forward. Choosing bravery over comfort is about choosing authenticity over conformity. It's about resisting the urge to stay in the safe, predictable spaces that may feel comfortable but don't serve our true potential. Bravery calls us to live with intention, to follow our inner compass, and to pursue the path that aligns with our soul, even when it's not the easiest route. It is through these courageous choices that we find our deepest sense of purpose and fulfillment. While comfort may offer short-term ease, bravery offers long-term growth, connection, and the profound satisfaction of knowing we have chosen a life that is true to who we really are. In the end, the decision to choose bravery over comfort is the one that leads us to the most rewarding experiences, the most meaningful relationships, and the deepest sense of personal empowerment.